Susan, thank you. I think the way to start today is we're certainly welcoming Fiona, but let's just go round and very quickly, or very slowly, but just say your name, so that we sort of have a sense of your voice in the room before we hear Fiona's voice in the room. So we start with Leanne. We don't usually do this, but we're more intimate today, so gives people an opportunity just to say their name, and that maybe that's part of the welcome for Fiona here as well. So we start with yourself.
Hello everybody, I'm Leanne. I'm a big fan for you today.
Daniel.
Michael.
John, welcome to the one.
Thank you.
Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Martin. Well,
Thank you.
Andrea.
Kathy.
Maureen.
Brendan.
Leslie. Mary.
Thank you.
Alan.
Kevin.
Richie. Phil. David.
Caroline.
Nigel. Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you.
And Maureen, welcome.
Thank you.
Fiona, you're very welcome. And as Susan has said, Fiona's a bit nervous here. She's come today with the truth of her story. And in these situations, I think many of you have been at these testimony events. What we're inviting you to do is listen. One time I've said, or maybe more than once, with the ears of your heart. So this is about listening and responding with your heart, rather than the more traditional argy-bargy political discussion, who did what when and what aboutery. And Fiona would probably speak maybe 20 minutes. And then the two witnesses that are here are Maureen Hetherington, whom I would guess many of you know, and Nigel Gardner. And their role is to lead a response to what they've heard from Fiona. And both are going to speak from their heart as to what they've heard in response to Fiona. But before all of that, and they get us into, I suppose, it's called the Garden of Reflection. So we're inviting reflection today. Leanne and Daniel are going to play an instrumental. Would that be a way of putting it? Yeah. We'll give you a little moment to breathe and to arrive here. Fiona's travelled all the way from Sharkin today to be with us. And, it's great that you're here. This event could not happen. I've said that Nigel and Maureen are like witnesses. We're all witnesses here to what Fiona's going to share with us. So you're very welcome.
Thank you. Just want to thank you all for the very warm welcome, and what you're about to hear is what the feelings and thoughts that I had last night. If I was writing at this minute, they may be completely different from sure all of you that have suffered the way we've suffered. Have so many different emotions and thoughts and feelings that come to mind throughout days and nights. But anyway, good afternoon. My name's Fiona Kelly. I'm happily married to Dominic, and I'm a mother to two beautiful children, both inside and out, Adele and Jared. I'm from Sharkin, as Eamon has already said, a small rural village in County Antrim. I'm the youngest of 6, and there's 9 years between me and my sister. Nick's sister, sorry. We grew up in a loving family home with a devoted mother and father. Daddy was a very hard worker and wanted the best for us all. In 1969, he built our family home where our mother still lives, who is still the backbone of the family, who picks us all up whenever we fall. My father also made sure we had a family holiday every year, but being the wee late one, I missed out on the best holidays, which involved the 7 of them packed into a car and towing a caravan to Bray in County Wicklow. Where the holiday in that for my mother was, I'll never know, but they made memories and they still talk about them today, but I'm not included. Anyhow, when I come along, or the holidays then were upgraded to Mosney in County Meath. And then we progressed to flying to London because we had friends there, and then my other brothers and sisters, they actually made London their home for quite a few years. Daddy, when he wasn't working, he devoted every spare minute he had to the local GAA club. He was a playing member, he managed teams, and he carried out all the joinery work that ever had to be carried out around the place. A lot of it still standing today in tribute to him. My brothers played Gaelic, my sister and I played camogie. I even managed to get an All-Ireland medal. Coming from County Antrim was a big achievement, even though it was under 13. In later years, he started up an old time dance as a fundraiser, and people drove for miles, probably from Derry and beyond, to attend these dances because they were renowned for the good crack and the good supper, and there was absolutely no alcohol involved either, which was funny, but they loved it. So anyway, thankfully these dances continued as a tribute to Daddy long after he died, and they raised quite a bit of money. In the winter months, Daddy and Mummy, they played bowls. The leagues that they played in were mixed. They played in parochial halls one week, Orange halls the next, but it didn't matter to them. They just enjoyed it. It was an innocent pastime. And again, I know because I went with them as a child. I travelled everywhere they went, I went. So all in all, in March 1993, Daddy was 58. He had everything to live for. He was in good health. He enjoyed his work. And never once did he ever think that his life was at risk. He didn't work for the security forces or had any paramilitary links. If he had have known what we know today, he wouldn't have been in that work van, and our family wouldn't have been in the situation that they're in. I was 20. The week before his murder, I was offered a permanent post in Belfast in the civil service. And at his wake, one of his work colleagues, who wasn't much older than myself, told me that Daddy was very concerned about me going to work in Belfast, but Daddy never had shared these concerns with me. So I never got to know how he would have dealt with it. But a month after his death, I did start working in Belfast. And the truth was, it was terrible. The shootings were still continuing. I remember one day by chance standing and I was looking out the window and I seen 3 hearses passing by that was of an incident similar to my father's. And then when we went down the town at lunchtime, it wasn't a familiar sight to me, but we were used to it. The army would have been patrolling the streets, and the sight of the guns used to absolutely terrify me because it was a gun that robbed our family of Daddy. I could never say to the people that was with me because they wouldn't understand what the significance of it was. As a child, growing up, I was shared with love and affection by all my family. And it was a funny thing that Daddy always used to say when he was leaving as a child, remember, you're the boss when I'm not about. Because I was the youngest and I was really spoiled, let's say. But somehow I was an anxious child, always afraid that something bad was going to happen. This was from, I was a very young age. I'm not sure, because it was being the youngest, and always in my parents' company, that contributed to this. They were my life, and the morning that I got the news in Mazarine Hospital that there had been a shooting, this confirmed that bad things really do happen. It was a sunny Thursday morning, and just a few hours before I got the news, Daddy had woke me. We had both left at the same time. I travelled to work. I got a lift with a fella from the village, and Daddy, he travelled to work in Kilrea to catch the van. So, sorry, I've just lost my trail of thought here. Whenever I was at my work, I had heard a news bulletin to say that there had been a shooting in County Londonderry. It was Radio 1, but we were so I was so used to hearing this here, you thought about it and considered it for a second or two, but never in my life that day did I think that within a few minutes that a team of doctors had actually volunteered to deliver the news to me in my supervisor's room. So when the news was broke, I just couldn't believe it. I just said, no, I just wasn't taking it on board, because there's nobody in this world would want to shoot my daddy because he was an innocent man. Excuse me. Anyhow,
Take your time. Just breathe.
that day I left Antrim to go to Coleraine Hospital, and for some reason, before I left the hospital, I could do with it now, this awful sense of calm come over me. And we travelled down that road, and it was as if, I don't know, I just can't explain it, but I travelled, wasn't hysterical, I was grand. Until I got to the hospital, and then the reality hit. I was greeted at the door by the police, and it probably wasn't taking them forever to tell me, but they weren't giving me the information that I wanted, so I started to run. And in my head, I knew I was going for the intensive care unit, because I still thought that Daddy was alive. But anyhow, the police caught up with me, and then they directed me to a room to where my mum and my sister and my next door neighbour had been sitting. My mum, she couldn't be got that morning because she was a home help, and because it was such a beautiful day, she decided to take the elderly neighbours out for a drive, and she travelled, it must have been about a 10-mile radius from her home. But by the time she came back, the news was in the village, and people knew and Mommy didn't know. But luckily, our neighbour heard, and he waited on her. And he was able to break the news to her before she answered the phone. It was nice to get it from somebody that we respected. My other sister, she worked in the Waveney Hospital in Ballymena. She travelled to Coleraine too. I had 4 other members of my family, and we had to, years ago there was no mobile phones, so it wasn't easy to track them down, but my brother was playing golf, he couldn't be got for ages. My sister was in Dublin. I rang her to break the news to her, and then I had 2 brothers in London, and they were told also, and they ended up not getting home that night too really late, but in time for Daddy's body to be released. Sorry, just want to relate back to this, if that's okay. But on March the 25th, 1993, my life, my father, my best friend, my hero was taken from me. The people who done this to our family will never know what they robbed us of. I could talk until morning about how wonderful a character he was. Ask anyone, Catholic or Protestant, they will agree. But it doesn't ease the sense of loss and injustice done to us. Daddy put his trust in the law to protect us all from what was going on in this part of the world. We are all victims of it. His murder case and that of 3 others shot that day has been reopened by the Ombudsman. I'm glad, because when I read the report from the HET, I was so sick to read some of the findings, one in particular, how a gun of a soldier coming off duty could so easily be stolen from his car as he socialised in a pub. My father was a decent, law-abiding citizen who brought us up in a home with a quote, "Live and let live." Never forget this. This is actually on his memoriam card. Unfortunately, not everyone in this society had such a sound upbringing. I'm so proud to say we were brought up in a home with no bitterness. The one thing we as a family want is the truth. Daddy, along with his work colleagues, deserve that. We have the right to know who was involved that day. Torrance Knight, who I'm sure a lot of you know because he was a colourful character, was one of the only one convicted in relation to Castle Rock. I remember being told in our home they knew who carried out the murders, but they hadn't enough evidence to charge them. In the light of all that's being disclosed now, were the other gunmen involved that day sent to kill James Kelly because he was because he was an IRA man, then given orders from the van the gunmen were in to take the rest because they were a bonus, because they were Catholics? Are these men being protected? I know the truth will not bring Daddy back, but we have the right to know who thought it was okay to shoot him dead. The not knowing who carried out the murder haunted me so much, I left my job. It was a good job. In the local, sorry. I was an AO in the Social Security office. I couldn't cope with it because I didn't know who I was dealing with. And then when the prisoners were released under the Good Friday Agreement, I had the fear that Torrance Knight would walk in to sign on. I haven't worked since 2000. But on a more positive note, the circumstances of Daddy's death was similar in my eyes to the events that was happening in the Balkans in 1993. I can clearly remember sitting watching the TV and seeing men in concentration camps, women, elderly women, all having to flee their homes, and the children just getting up and running with what they had. And I remember relating my situation to it and thinking, you know, things is bad, but I still have my mum, I still have my brothers, I have our family home. I felt drawn to these people. I felt I wanted to help them. So I did. In the beginning, we were there was flights going out. Different organisations was filling planes, and there was emergency airlifts being dropped out to Bosnia and Croatia. So I took part in that. So that carried out for about a couple of years. But then, 22 years later, 70+ lorries of humanitarian aid to rebuild the homes and lives. I have established a very successful cross-community charity. It's run strictly by volunteers, and together we have changed thousands of lives. Bosnia, Croatia, Romania, Hungary, Africa, all really areas that have been affected by conflict. It's just something that I know my father would be very proud of what I've done, because of that's the type of person he was. And I will continue to do so for as long as I possibly can, because it has brought, how would you describe it? We've great comfort in knowing we've helped people that have suffered through no fault of their own also. It was at the beginning it was a family affair. It was really only our family that was involved, my mum, everybody. I had young children, so Mummy was the dinner maker, the babysitter, while I was away collecting aid and all sorts of things. So, as I say, that's something very positive that has come out of this awful tragedy to Striker home. But before I lost my father, he equipped me with fundamental life lessons. We were brought up not to hate and always to treat people as you find them. That was another very famous line of his, always treat people as you find them. Thankfully, I have been able to do the same, even with the events that caused his death. Adele and Jared, my two children, learned of his death at 17 and 13 years old. Not a very nice thing to have to explain, that someone thought it was okay to rob them of a loving grandfather. My daughter Adele, it took me so long to tell her because she had different events in her life that I felt that this was just too big of a bombshell, I'm going to say, to drop on her. Whenever Daddy's case had been reopened with the Ombudsman, she has a part-time job in a shop, and I felt I really had to address it and explain to her. And telling Adele was like as if it had just happened, because Adele has grew up listening to stories about how great a person he was, and the minute I say I'm Jerry Dalrymple's daughter, everybody had a story of the good that he had done and how he had helped people. It wasn't until he died did we realise, really, I know everybody's the same, we realise how good a person he really was. He wasn't one to, he was a quiet man, and he just done the thing without recognition. So telling Adele this was just horrific, it was terrible, and to this day she just can't believe that this really could have happened to her. But thankfully I was able to bring her here last Monday, and she's coming along well. And it's not fair not explaining to Jared. Jared's a fella, he's now 15, he's named after my dad. He's very quiet, he doesn't talk about it. But when he was told it was his father, my husband Dominic, their daddy, explained to him about it, he broke down and he cried very sore, but to date we don't know how it affects him. Adele's different. She's grieving, even though she never met him, but she feels as if she knew. So finally, I want to thank Eamon for inviting me here, believing in me to tell this story, even though it was very much interrupted with tears. And I just hope that some of you maybe can relate to what I've said and take something away positive of how I've learned to deal with this loss. Thank you.
You know, it's an extraordinary thing what I'm asking, what Maureen and I are asking of people, that they would come in here and share their story. Just to come in a publicly invited audience, and that someone will come in and talk from their heart, talk from their soul. Just when you started talking a bit of me, I started thinking, Fiona, is this the right thing to do? Are we doing the right thing here and inviting people to do this? And then another part of me is saying, what tremendous courage, what tremendous dignity, what tremendous love you're expressing here for your daddy, for your family, the road of hope, the project that you've set up, your children, and for us. Because you bring here a gift. You bring a gift of yourself here. And I didn't think that your story was interrupted by your tears. I thought your tears are part of your story. And what we're hoping is sessions like this can be part of a healing process. That as you listen, you can connect. One of the things that happens when people have trauma is connection breaks down. So it's good that we're sat in a circle. It's good maybe that you'll have a moment to talk with Fiona in this circle, or maybe afterwards over a cup of tea. Don't be panicking. apparently
does that
invited
again.
people for a cup of tea after the book launch. There's 150 people. You take care of that, Susan. Didn't even know I was doing it. So the way, I would welcome you giving Fiona another round of applause. Show your appreciation. And as I said earlier, this is not about a political discussion. It's like a ritual. And as part of that ritual, I'm now going to ask Maureen. And what Maureen and Nigel have been asked to do is not respond to analyse what happened in Castle Rock in March 1993, but to say, how is hearing this story affecting them in their hearts, in their minds? And then we'll open it up to everybody. We started late, so we'll finish a wee bit late, but we'll still only be here an hour. So it's going on to 1:45 now. Thank you.
Fiona, thank you so much. I feel very privileged to be here, and even more privileged to be responding to you, because at the book launch I was sitting quite nervous and you were sitting just in front of me, and I knew nothing of your story. And one of the fellas that was there on the day said to me afterwards, you know, that respond to the 4 people who spoke. He said, you know, they are the Mandelas. They're the people who have taken their story and turned it positively. And he was a man, so he used the male Nelson Mandela. And I suppose what I'm thinking, you're the Malalas of this world. You know, that you're speaking out, even though it's painful, because this is something that we need to hear, and that's about humanising and hearing what awful acts of violence do and the fallout of violence, the impact, the generational impact. When you said, you know, he was, I'm not supposed to get emotional.
No, you actually are.
Yeah.
One of the things that it would be good for all of us to recognize, emotions are okay. Some people say tears are nature's value.
Well, when you said he was my father, my best friend, my hero, I couldn't even start to imagine how I would feel if that was my daddy, you know. So to have him taken away like that is, I can't even imagine it. I had my daddy up until he was 85.
Okay.
So just to acknowledge and recognise, you know, here was an amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to treat people,
Yeah, as you
You know.
find them.
as you know, so those things, you know, resonate with me at a very,
Yeah.
very deep level. And in 1993, I had just started working with Eamon Baker. And at that time, the Troubles had, we didn't know other stories, only our own stories. You know, we were caught up in our own stories.
Mm-hmm.
And not to hear about a place, a site of memory, and not to know, because I travelled down to Castle Rock every other evening. I take my dogs down to the beach, and to know that there's a site of memory, you know, and I didn't know, and I'm going down it every day, you know, that it's a powerful memory for you, that site where something awful happened. It just makes me feel differently, and it makes me want to say to everybody to continue the work that we do, to say, you know, there's been such a fallout of the violence, and here's the consequences. Here's the human, living and emotional detail that we need to be threaded onto if we are going to make a difference, you know. And they need to hear those stories and be reminded of them. And you talked earlier about, you know, maybe it's important for you to talk about this because it's a way to help yourself to move forward and heal, you know. But you know what? I hope it helps you, because it certainly helps me to be stronger, more determined, and sort of think, you know what, each one of us have a responsibility to contribute. And here, the work that you do is amazing. And I had the privilege of working in the Balkans.
Did you?
You know, yeah, and it's tragic there, you know, it's so tragic there. And so to turn your trauma and the honour and the memory of your daddy, you know, he would be so proud of you.
Well, I know he would. He
He'd be so proud. But, you know, you're contributing, you're helping children, people who need food, awful situations that are around the world, you know, to turn something of what's happened to you into that positive, you know, I just think that your daddy would be so proud of you, and it makes me want to walk out of this room and sort of say, you know what, we each have it in us to do something. We don't have to sit back and be overwhelmed, but every one of us can make a positive contribution. So just to honour what you've said today, and I hope this helps you as much as it's helping me. Hopefully it'll help people in this room, but just want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Your work is, if it wasn't for you and Eamon, I wouldn't be here, so I really appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words. You've suffered as well, so you have different experiences, but at the end of the day, it was all totally unnecessary that we're in this position, having to have these discussions.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen, thank you. Let me just check out here. Is it okay to cry? Is that the consensus here? Can I just hear?
Not when I was growing up.
No.
Are we saying it's okay for people to be tearful? It's part of the human condition. And I know what you're saying, Jim, but, you know,
Growing up, you have to be butch, you know.
Yeah, big boys don't cry.
That's what they say.
But I'm hoping that people receive the gift of your tears and your tears, Maureen. Nervous is this man, Nigel Gardner. Fiona was nervous. This man says, I'm really nervous here. I wonder, could we not finish at 2:45, he said.
I felt like agreeing with him at that point.
So Nigel, the invitation is also to respond directly to Fiona.
Fiona, thank you very much. It was a very, very moving and very emotive story. What you've had to endure in your young life. And getting that terrible phone call, I don't know, I cannot imagine, cannot even start to think how you felt. So you've got my heartfelt sympathy. The fear that when you were working, actually dreading these people, other perception, people coming in, was that the person? Could that be the person? It must have been horrifying for you. And to a degree I can understand why you felt that you could no longer work in that environment. Could I work in that environment? I don't know. I've never faced a tragedy, sadly, that you have had to face and that of your family. You spoke very eloquently about your father and the family morals that he actually instilled on you all. The holidays were the happy times, and to be robbed of that again has been so painful for me to listen. When I reflect back on my own life, losing my own father 50 years ago through illness, I'm now starting to try and fully understand the tragedy that you have faced. But I thought I was the only one that faced a tragedy. But I'm now seeing a human being hearing a very, very tragic story. And I'm starting to reflect myself, look at things in a completely different aspect. To a degree, for the hurt that you've come through and you've had time, a lot of time to reflect, and at some stage you decided to put your energy and help other countries who were involved in conflict, but the aspect was based on cross-community, and that is sadly what we do lack here in our country. Life is too precious, it's too short. But for the work that you're actually doing and helping other areas that have been ravaged by conflict, that's indeed very, very commendable of you. And I wish I could actually do something like that. I do other things, but which is irrelevant to your story. Dad obviously is the mainstay of any household, and to be robbed of your father at such a young age, a father who didn't have a sectarian bone in his body, a father who was family orientated and wanted the best for his children. He gave the best of his life, but to have his life so cruelly taken at such a young age, I can only deeply offer my deepest sympathy to you, and I really do feel your pain and your hurt and your anguish. And it's only now that, listening to you, I'm actually starting to feel this myself. But I just want to thank you for sharing a very, very human story that was so touching, but so hurtful, but yet very, very painful. So thank you.
Thank you, Nigel, for the comments. Another thing I would say, people would say, how do you get the time, how do you get the energy? But I would rather waking up in the morning with a broken heart than a bitter heart, to be honest, because I know I'm going to do something positive when I get up in the morning, because there isn't a day goes past that I'm not involved in the charity work. It's my own choice, it's my own doing, but my mind's always thinking on how I can ease suffering, ease pain. So that's just what I would tell myself. I'm just so glad I'm not bitter, because I do, there is people that are tormented because of bitterness, and they literally are tormented. They're up fighting every day. As I said in this here, I would love the truth, because I just cannot stand liars. That's right across the board, nothing to do with Daddy's death or whatever. I just like to be told the truth. Always did. But whether we ever get the truth or not, I don't know, but that's just one thing I would like. I'd just like to know who I'm meeting in the street, you know. At the end of the day, as I say, my job, I gave it up and I haven't worked since 2000, and that's something I do feel guilty about, because I had a lot to offer in my workplace. But because when I was at school, I gave up my A-levels, and it was something I mentioned to him yesterday that I never forgive myself for, because I had good potential of making something of my life, but I changed schools, and it didn't. The change of school didn't suit me. Went from a very small school to a big school, and it was being that wee spoiled late one again, it didn't help. But then, as I say, I got into the civil service eventually, and I had everything going for me until the tragedy struck. So, and as I haven't worked, I haven't contributed to. But I'm blessed with a husband that he provides for us. He never ever would say about me not in a job, not working. The charity work, how he puts up with me, I'll never know, but he gets good out of it too. He doesn't admit it until everything comes together, but he's very proud when those lorries are pulling out and all. So
I want to interrupt you just for a wee second. Offer you the same thought that I offered down in Morelli's in Port Stewart when we met yesterday. You hear Fiona saying, I haven't worked.
I know.
And you also hear saying 70 lorries.
I know.
What is that, Kathleen? Does that work?
It's a contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a massive
Now,
contradiction.
I hear what
Hard
Fiona said. I'm not working in paid employment, and I have 2 wains to bring up, and my husband's working. So I hear it like that. But I also, am I right? Do people here know that you work your ass off
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
in this charity? And part, I would guess, part of, if anyone comes up to you today and says, can I help in any way, you'd be delighted to receive that.
over the moon. Yep.
Because
I'm always networking.
always networking. So she says she's not working, but she's always networking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depends where you're from.
Now, Nigel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else wish to respond, to close that circle with Fiona?
Can I just make a comment, Fiona? I'm very sorry I have to leave now, I have another
You're okay.
appointment. But you just said that you could have made something of yourself.
You have.
I can't say anymore. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brona.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
Is there words that you want to leave us with, Dennis?
I just think she's an amazing woman.
You, instead of saying she, maybe you, because she's right here.
Yeah, as long as you're talking to you, as an amazing woman.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Thank you.
Dennis, thank you. Thank you. We're running a wee bit late to start, so some people may have to go
Yeah.
yet. Maybe just move that chair out, Dennis, so that we can close the circle. And thank you. Is there, you just want to close the circle, Carol? Now, it's not necessary that you speak, but if there is any words that people have that they want to offer,
I would just like to say to Fiona, when she's saying there that she's not working, and your father's killed his place of work. Well, your father's doing their work up in God's backyard.
Father's doing your work in God's backyard.
I would imagine he is the driving force behind a lot of it because there's a lot of things fall into place very quickly.
I've never met him, but I know it.
Thank you.
This is young Jim Meenan, who I remember as a 60-year-old.
Unfortunately.
Is there any other words that people want to offer? It's okay. It really is okay if there isn't, because if there isn't, then we will hear some music to finish off.
I just think the silence is it.
How do you read that silence, Michael?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Emotional.
Maybe we'll just sit with the silence for a little before we go to the music.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very, very moving. Thank you very much, Fiona. It's been a real privilege. Thank you, Eamon, Maureen, Nigel. Beautiful music. Thank you so much. That's the first event over today. Thank you. Sorry, second, because I did a group of school children in this morning. Thank you so much all for coming along. Eamon's doing another event for us this evening with a group of storytellers that we have, story collectors, this evening at 6:30. So if you haven't already signed up, you're more than welcome to come along. It should be an interesting evening. We'll be listening to some of the stories that have been gathered over the last number of months and just having a chat about how that all went and looking at how... I'm not sure if you're aware, but as part of the Garden of Reflection, there is actually a storytelling booth, it's called, and it's really a facility for people to come in and record their stories. It's based on a model from America called StoryCorps. You should look it up if you get a chance on the internet. And it's quite a powerful thing, and it ties in quite well with what we're doing today with the testimony event. People tell their story. They might tell a 5-minute story, or it might be an anecdote, or it might be 2 people, or it could be a longer story. And it's just really interesting to hear other people. I think it started around 9/11 in America, and a lot of people, they have a whole page dedicated to that, people talking about the trauma of that and the positive stories that have come out of that as well. So that's happening this evening, so please come along if you can. And tomorrow we have Joe, who's going to talk about his new book that is in draft form and ready for publishing. And that's about remembering splintered memories. It's about remembering the dead from Northern Ireland. Would that be right, Joe? So if you haven't signed up, you can leave your name with me now if you wish, and I can do that for you. That's grand. And we have May Blood, Baroness May Blood on Thursday, and Baroness Nuala Alone on Friday. So it's quite a packed week. And please come along. And thank you so much for today. It's been great. Thanks again, Fiona, for your time.
Thank you all very much
Thank
again.
you.
Are you going to be around for a little while, Fiona?
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to talk to Fiona about anything, or Anne and the Road of Hope project, she's here for a little while. Thank you all.
Can I just, I know you asked first, how might we, just in a couple of sentences, how might we contribute to help you? You know, is this about gathering food and taking it down to you, or getting tins, or, you know, how could we practically help you? Because there's amazing people in this room that will be out there.
Well, as you know, I'm from Rashargan, but our base would be in Limavady. So the lorries went from humanitarian aid. It was building materials, it was clothes, it was baby food, all that type of thing. It went out initially after the war. But the cost of the lorries now to send out has doubled. It's actually £3,500, which is a lot of fundraising because it's just crazy money. And clothes are now available, more readily available in these countries because of all the recycling initiatives that's going on. They're all exported. So the lorry, I would send lorries at Christmas which would contain the shoebox appeal. It's the Road of Hope shoebox appeal. Again, whenever our boxes go out, they only go to poor people. They're not attached to any particular churchgoers or whatever. Just only the poor receive them. So that's all year I collect items to go towards the Christmas appeal now. So items would be, I introduced elderly boxes because during the war there were so many elderly people displaced in the mountains in Bosnia, Croatia, you would know. So I got great, there's a great response always to that, because the elderly people are always forgotten. So items like, there's so many things you could donate. We send, we'll start off with the elderly as such, candles, just the basics, hand creams, stick and plasters, tea towels, just can't think off the top of my head. Dark coloured hats, because over in those countries it's dark colours they wear, they don't like the bright colours that older people would wear here. And then the children, just all the normal items. We also would send nappies, wipes, creams, and then for older children, just your basic tennis balls, skipping ropes and that. But any money that I would receive over and above, there's different projects that I would allocate the money to for feeding programmes. So anything that's given goes direct, regardless.
Does that work, of course,
No. No. No, so that's just a small insight into it. At the minute, my project is, I've stumbled across a lady who is friendly with 2 street children in Bucharest, and their daddy died, and this lady knew their daddy. So I've just sent off a bag of aid. She's going out now in July to see them, so we've sent out a complete hygiene packs, clothes, all the basics, knitted blankets, everything for these children. Because they are street children, they have nothing, and backpacks for them to carry their stuff around with them. So at night they don't know where they're going to be sleeping, but they beg during the day. They park cars. One of them's only 4, the other one's only 10. They park cars to generate an income to get sleeping in a derelict building. So that's the nature of the work. But again, the charity's small and it's very much hands-on, and we decide who we want to help. You know,
If I wanted to bring, or if Marie wanted to bring candles and clothes,
yep,
and cream.
I have lists. I do have lists, but just off.
How would you do that?
Well,
if you bring it to here,
I'll collect it. We pass Limavady every day going home.
Do you?
Richie and myself can take stuff down.
Right. Well, it's the Ballyquin Road. I was explaining to you about them. We have I was donated 2 porta cabins, and I have a very good friend that gave us a piece of her ground to put them on. So they're converted into a sorting centre. So that's there permanently all year round for us to build up our stock as such. So last year we sent out 2,000 more shoe boxes. We sent out 10,000 in total, plus all the rest of the, we would be donated new shoes, we could be donated, it's just endless what we deal with. But clothes I've had to step away from because it wasn't cost effective to do it anymore.
And there's others doing that, but just about everything. Are we up for it, folks?
Yes,
Yep,
absolutely.
yep.
Brilliant.
Anything that's brought here, we can do a rundown. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You could do the rundown.
Well, I would even come and lift them. But no, that would be real. I would really, really appreciate that.
Would you want us to put them in a shoebox?
Yep. You don't have to put them in a shoebox at all. If you want to put them in, certainly, but it's not necessary, because sometimes people find shoeboxes an inconvenience. Well, I have the lists. I haven't 2015's list pamphlets done out yet, but I have last year's to work on. And it just gives you a step-by-step guide on what to need. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you sent them here that guide, you could copy them and give them out.
Give them out.
Oh, well, I'll be able to provide you. But if you don't mind me suggesting this, I'm getting cheeky now. The older children, we do 0 to 2, 3 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 to 14 and 15 plus. Boys never get enough boxes. So in situations like this here where I can promote it or encourage it, if people would be geared towards that age group, even if it's not just the shoebox, even just the items to put into them.
Boys of 15 plus.
15 plus.
Jerseys and stuff like that?
No, more for that age group it would be your underwear,
Yeah.
but it's all listed. Just the basics that,
Well, if you leave a list and let
Yep.
us know.
that would be
I'll
brilliant.
share it.
And we do it all year round. Even at home, even you ladies would have scarves or jewellery,
Aye.
hand cream, stuff that you don't even have to buy.
Yeah.
We would put them into teenage boxes.
Aye.
And again, we would have people working all year, you know, preparing them just ready for.
Aye.
But if you ever want a tour of Limavady, I can give you a tour of Limavady and let you see the setup.
We could do that as well.
Yep.
And we've been more informed, and we can
Yeah.
inform.
Because
other people
sometimes
more.
visually it's. Do you do social media, Facebook, any of you? Yeah, Road of Hope's in it, and I would
Right, okay.
update it regularly.
Aye.
Facebook.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's, you're going to be surprised.
Well, I'm delighted. I'm really, really pleased.
We dairy ones are brilliant at this.
We do collect in dairy. There's schools. There's quite a few schools
Yeah.
at Christmas do the
Yeah.
shoebox appeal. But if it was an ongoing thing, it would be even better.
And now you'll have to work.
No more sitting with my feet up.
You'll have to call it work now.
Yeah, indeed.
That's lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely.